What if you were asked to lead a prayer? Just right now. What would come up in you? Fear? Anxiety? Oh my gosh, on the spot? Rooted to your chair, to your stance, mind a blank, panic? I don't know. Or would you feel like, yes, I can do that at any time. I can offer a prayer. Because you can. You can at any time from your very being offer a prayer. You don't need professional training. You don't need to have a title. You don't need to have a special role. Prayer is simply being present and being willing to say so. Prayer is an utterance of honesty about our human condition in the face of ultimacy and divinity. You have so many prayers in you, all of you, unofficial, perhaps unpolished. I just wanted to remind you of that. Howard Thurman, the great civil rights icon, the African-American mystic, called prayer the petition of our soul. Let us enter now into the spirit of prayer, that place of honesty, the place where our heart meets the heart at the holiness, at the heart of holiness. What is the petition of our souls? Dear God, what is the petition of our souls? In the busyness, in the scrolling on the phone, in the listening to chatter, let us vow in this moment to be more attentive to that petition and to dedicate ourselves to it. In the words of Dr. Thurman, in the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of God, my heart whispers, may I keep fresh before me the moments of high resolve, that in fair weather or in foul, in good times or in tempests, in the days when the darkness and the foe are nameless or familiar, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before us the moments of our high resolve. Amen.
The introit you heard earlier today, I think, is a good reminder of commitment, resolve. It can be very hard to stick with something, to have to come back over and over again. And I think this song, even its title, Step by Step, is a reminder that you just have to keep taking that step in committing. The text is in your order of service. The thing that I appreciate about this text is this idea that we have to keep moving. But the last bit of this, and by union, what we will can be accomplished still, makes me think of the power of us together. And if we're all moving forward, taking steps in the same direction, or at least with the same intention, then all of these individual drops are the mill that we can turn. So the choir will sing it once more to refresh your memory, and then the words are in your order of service, and I would like for you to join in.
Today's reading is the poem To Be of Use by Marge Piercy. The people I love the best jump into work head first without dallying in the shallows and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust, but the thing worth doing, well done, has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, hopi vases that hold corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry and a person for work that is real.
The church is ideally countercultural in many important ways. It orients us to the life of the soul rather than to external achievements and acquisitions. It affirms our interconnectedness and interdependence with all living things. And ideally, it points us towards an ethic of love that makes us more conscious of patterns of consumption and exploitation and equips us to resist them. It encourages us to embrace cooperation and mutuality over competition. The church can also be countercultural in its celebration of community, a word we hear a whole lot, but often without fully appreciating how demanding it really is to create and to be in community. It's easy to be a parlor general, as Marge Piercy says in that wonderful poem. And it's much more convenient, really, to be a lone ranger, standing apart and taking instruction and guidance only from oneself, even on behalf of others, than to be formed in the fire of the group experience. Sometimes people say, oh, well, you should have had more people help you with X, Y, and Z. And it's like, you know what? It's harder. It's harder to have people help and be involved than to do it alone. But that's not what church is about. I'm always working on that. I'm always trying to learn that. If we pay attention and know where to look, we might be incredibly inspired, seeing how throughout history, in ways monumental and small, it isn't actually so much the heroes and the icons, but groups of ordinary people who uplift, help, and transform each other and the world. Do y'all remember Tina Turner's really big 1985 hit, Sing it with me if you know it. You know it even if you don't think you know it. We don't need another hero. There you go. We don't need to know the way home. And I was listening to it again the other day, and I always remembered We Don't Need Another Hero as this banger. Like, we don't need it, because it gets that way at the end, but it actually starts really small and gentle with looking for something to rely on. Oh, well, actually, sorry. Okay. The lyrics are, we don't need another hero, and it starts early on in the song, gently. We don't need another hero. We don't need to know the way home. All we want is life beyond the Thunderdome. Looking for something to rely on, there's got to be something better out there. Go listen to the song later today. That song was written by Graham Lyle and Terry Britton in 1976, but Tina recorded it in '85 for the soundtrack of Mad Max, Beyond the Thunderdome, which was set in a post-nuclear dystopia. And although it sounds like a cry of despair, it's actually, this song contains a really hopeful message. It's not, we don't need another hero. It's really, we don't need another hero. We need everyone to embrace a better way. And she sings about love and compassion. We are the ones we have been waiting for, basically. Heroes are so attractive because being human is hard and uncertain. And it's really appealing to imagine a rescuer arriving on the scene to save the day. Obviously, this is the central message or central idea in some versions of Christianity. Jesus is the hero who will save the world, or who did save the world and will come back again to save it. The Messiah figure is awaited in many other faith traditions, and usually the Messiah is an individual, although I particularly love the stories that suggest that perhaps the Messiah is a group of people. Is a community. What we call the hero's journey is always focused, though, on the individual. And this is how we are taught to think about our own lives. It's a quest, right, for self-actualization, living out our own personal destiny, our dream, and so forth. Joseph Campbell was a very popular writer and teacher in the 80s particularly, who pointed out how universal the hero's journey motif has been throughout world literature, mythologies, world religions. And I was thinking about this during the recent holidays that honor Dr. King and, of course, President's Day that we just had. The hero's journey, the lone figure, sometimes tragic, sometimes triumphant, but celebrated and remembered with not very much attention to others in the story. When I was a kid, we had a biography series in my elementary school library. Some of you might remember these. They were orange. I think it was called like Childhood of Famous Americans series. And it was all of these famous people. It was like everyone from Lou Gehrig to Betsy Ross, Florence Nightingale, Davy Crockett, Albert Einstein. I read every single one that we had in our library because I wanted to know about these people, and I really loved knowing about their childhoods. They were the superstars of history. Well, I've grown up since then, or I've evolved since then, in that I'm determined to learn also about the stories of the people who will never have their own biography, or probably won't. I want to know about the people who made the sandwiches and cleaned the basement and the rooms that nobody wants to look in the closets of, and cooked the stew that the heroes ate before they did their great thing. We are entering a new era right now where a lot of us want to know that. We want to hear the stories of the lesser knowns so that we can remember and know our own power. Angela Davis, the Black activist and freedom fighter, spoke about Abraham Lincoln in a 2014 interview with journalist Frank Barat and said that while Lincoln is credited with freeing the slaves, what Lincoln did was, and here I'll quote Davis, accelerate the movement toward abolition. She said it was the enslaved themselves in joining the Union Army, both women and men, who were primarily responsible for the victory over slavery. Now, that seems very obvious when I think about it. Of course, it wasn't one man who, quote unquote, freed the enslaved. I want to know more. Why did I not learn this in history? Angela Davis said in that same interview, every change that has happened has come as a result of mass movements. During a recent visit to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, our wonderful museum, one of many local museums that are wonderful, I came upon an exhibition of photographs of the women of the Black Panther Party, Comrade Sisters, and this is the book upon which that display was based. This was a fairly small but striking collection of photos taken by Stephen Shames, interestingly, a white man who at the time, 1965 is when he started taking these images, 65 to 73, he was a student at UC Berkeley, and he was invited by Black Panther leader Bobby Seals to have full access to the community, which really embraced him and led him behind the scenes, where he took many, many photos, mostly of women, because women were the majority of those who participated in this freedom movement. They were 65% of the party's membership. I had been reading Dana Ramey Barrett and Nicole Gross's book, A Black Woman's History of the United States, when I went to that exhibit. And by the way, that is such a terrific book that I recommend to all of you. And I'd been learning a lot about the not famous women whose contributions to civil rights I have never heard included in any celebration of Martin Luther King Day or Black History Month, for that matter. For instance, just the story of the multiple women who refused to give up their seats and moved to the back of segregated buses before Rosa Parks famously did so in December of 1955. And I want to name some of these women who were part of a movement. Aurelia Shines, who was a seamstress and a widow, who, when she refused to give up her seat, the bus driver not only kicked her off, he didn't kick her off, he drove her back to the beginning of the route and made her get off. And 15-year-old Claudette Colvin, who was arrested for doing so, 15 years old and pregnant. 18-year-old Mary Louise Smith, who refused to give up her seat. She was a domestic worker, and it was just the last straw for her that day because she had gone back to the woman's house that she worked for and asked to be paid, and she'd been stiffed her wages, and she had been refused and thrown out, and she got on that bus with no money, and again, at the end of her patience, and I think was also arrested. Susie McDonald, elderly, and walking with a cane, who was also one who refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus. These were women were all part of a movement of fighting back. They were all punished. But this is what it looks like to be part of a mass movement. You don't think that your story will ever be told. Maybe eventually it will be. I appreciated these images so much, and I'll show you some more in a second. They don't feature any big names. They feature people doing the work, common as mud, as the poem says, but also sacred work, engaging in the struggle. So I didn't know, all I knew about the Black Panther movement was, quite frankly, iconic images of men with guns. So I didn't know that the Black Panthers had a call for health care for all people, And this is a little bit off here. This got a little nudged. There we go. Sickle cell anemia obviously affects the African American community more so than any other population of people. So they had this whole campaign of medical care, and here's testing just on the streets, testing with people. This was one of their programs, a doctor going out where the people are. Health care for all was part of their platform. Here we have registering to vote, Arlene Clark and Cheryl Curtis. Some of you have done that, right? You've gone out and registered people to vote. There it is. Part of history. This is how we change the world. They had so many food security and food providing programs. Poverty was a powerful reality, a very depressing reality for the communities that the Black Panthers served in Oakland, California, and of course they had chapters throughout the nation. But here's a young woman, she's just doing, looks familiar, right? That's what we do. People's Free Food Program. The beauty and dignity of that. I love the lettering on the bag, so that, you know, it was like, this is love. This is for you because you deserve it. We're going to come to you, and everybody should be fed. Free Shoes Program. This was in Chicago. Shoes and bags, they all tell a story. Step by step, the longest march. And I love these images of joy. Black joy, laughter, fun. Of that love we spoke of last week called agape. The love that gives of itself with no expectation of reward. And children, care and love for children. Teaching, literacy, this was a really big part of their program, something I never had heard of. Literacy, reading to kids. Suzanne Forgione, does that look familiar? Yeah. It's one of our ministries too, at St. Stephen's in Lynn in the summers, Kids in Community. Beautiful image. Just someone out in the street talking about issues, advocating, sharing a newspaper. Love the old car in the background. Being together in the work. And here again is just that joy. This is Erica Huggins, who co-authored the book on Comrade Sisters, as they were known. Beautiful mother, maybe not the mother of this child. Maybe it's just one of the kids in the community. Just like we love our children in community, and we have pictures of people celebrating and being alive with our kids. Clowning around. I love that. What movement are you part of? Beyond denominational identity, beyond institutional names or membership, beyond identity labels, all of us who are part of community are part of a movement. 50 or 100 years from now, when photos that include you in the crowd are seen in retrospectives, dedicating your time and energy to support your most cherished values, serving the good for which your heart longs, what will they call that exhibit? And who will be in those images with you? we probably don't need another hero. We do need to know that every person of every age, of every ability, has the power to be part of a movement that creates a more beautiful, more dignity-filled, more fair, more fun, and joyful world. Here we were collecting food during the pandemic, I think. Yeah, you can see the masks. The work of the world is as common as mud and peanut butter. Just making meals from my brother's table. I know Debbie watches online sometime. Hi, Debbie. Walking for my brother's table, raising money. We keep moving and finding our way home. Amen.